Kurt Cobain celebrated 25 years after his death. Classic quotes from the Nirvana legend's favorite A. Today, April 5th, marks 25 years since the death of Kurt Cobain. In the quarter of a century since then, the Nirvana frontman's legacy has teetered on the brink of mythology. The seismic effect, his shrieking vocals, uncompromisingly brutal guitar playing and peculiarly magnetic persona were the forces that made swept away many of the bloated hangers-on of the day. Guns N' Roses, then the biggest band in the country, were effectively killed off by Nirvana's acerbic grunge. In 2003, a number of pages from his personal diaries were published. Included among them, here, we have collected tributes, memories, and anecdotes from 10 of those musicians, many of whom knew him personally. They muse on the track Kurt's favorite album. What they said about him. I went to see Nirvana at a small club called the Pyramid on Avenue A in New York City. It was hard to hear when he sang. He put his voice in this really grating place, and it was kind of devilish sounding. At the end of the set, later, I saw the same guy passing the bar. He was Little, Kurt's favorite album. What they said about him. We did this show with Nirvana at the Warfield, in San Francisco. They plugged in. Kurt was a wee little man, with these big piercing blue eyes and this tremendous smile, and that's one thing that nobody can replicate. Kim Gordon, Kurt's favorite album. The Man Who Stole the World. What they said about him. I was simply blown away when I found out that Kurt Cobain liked my work, and I always wanted to talk to him about his reasons for covering Man Who Sold the World. It was a good straight, Kurt's favorite album. What they said about him. Kurt's wounds were so deep that when the music floated to the surface after being filtered through his soul, it was incorporeal. Steven Tyler, Kurt's favorite album. What they said about him. I met him a few times. As a writer, I had Kurt's favorite albums. My War and Damaged. What they said about him. Kurt Cobain and the Seattle scene tapped into a vast chunk of American youth who were depressed, bummed out, and here is a guy who looks like them, comes from them, sings for them, about them, and to them. He was a brilliant Kurt's favorite album. What they said about him. I feel sad that I never got the chance to speak to Kurt and express how grateful we are. But you can never see Kurt's favorite album. Meet the Beatles. What they said about him. Kurt Cobain was really powerful. He had great songs. Kurt's favorite album. What they said about him. I was in Chris Novoselic's basement in Seattle. He and Courtney had moved into the house next door to my former guitar player Peter Buck. The first time, related from ABBA to Zappa music legends captured in their prime Daily Mail.
Raindrop, drop top, top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.